Hello everyone, this is Arrow, and welcome back to Sundown MHA Podfic. Today we'll be continuing Learning to Adapt to the Fall by Supupdog, Chapter 23. Everyone processes things differently. Not everyone is safe. He was very worried for his friend Midoriya. They had spent most of the first days of school together, eating lunch together and talking. He was scared because he didn't have Midoriya's number, or knew where he lived, or if he was more hurt, or Tenya was just scared, he guesses. His friend was acting strange and had extra limbs the last time he saw him. They even had to call in Hawks, the number 3 hero, to get Midoriya under control. That was the last Tenya saw of him. He tried to get more information out of Tsuyu, but all she said was that they might have to adjust to how Midoriya acts from now on. He tried to get her to explain more, but all she said was, "I don't know if it'll be permanent, Karo. But if it is, we might have to tread lightly around him for a bit, Karo." It was a little upsetting that Tsuyu didn't tell him all she knew, but he could understand a bit because of the traumatic event they all had just went through. Tenya even tried to ask Mineta, but all he got was a light rundown on what they went through at the USJ. It was good to know how it happened and that the villain that caused the change was caught. His classmate didn't know if it was permanent, though, the same with Tsuyu, but he didn't tell him that they would need to tread lightly around Midoriya. He wanted to know why Tsuyu said this, but that can wait. With the whole attack in general being very mentally taxing, he's been spending most of his time with his brother. Their parents said they needed to work, so they worked even though they could have taken a break like his brother, but that's okay. Besides, Tenya's spending time with his brother. He studied and used the gym to train more. Tensei did have to go back to work for a little bit because of an emergency call he got, getting called onto a team that needed him when he was just spending some time that day at a friend's agency. He didn't come back in about a day or so, but that was to be expected when one gets called in. It usually means that whatever it is very complicated and needs more time. Once Tensei was back, he informed him that he had to help his Aunt Kaya for a bit. Tenya asked if she had a bad day, or maybe a reminder of some bad memories. He got confirmation from Tensei that it was in fact a bad day. Tenya was at the moment working on something to help his aunt. She loved getting gifts from him, and he knows that it'll make her mood better. This is also helping keep his worry of his friend in the back of his mind. Momo was writing in her journal. She dealt with a lot of her emotions by writing them down, and she had been writing a lot for the last week or so, and school should be back up soon. Both students and teachers were getting dorms now, but it wasn't mandatory for the students, but the teachers started to live on campus. Some will probably decide to stay where they live, but not many, maybe 2, but they lived really close by, and the only reason she knows this is because they have mentioned having a 15-minute walk here, while other teachers mentioned having to drive. Momo herself would be going to be moving in, so she wouldn't have to leave so early, and that she will have more connection with the kids her age. Her parents wanted to be able to connect with others okay, but with how she grew up, she's a bit divided with others her own age. All of the students got an update on the health of their classmate Midoriya, saying he was awake and no longer hurt, but that was all. That was good. Her classmate was fine and safe. They said he was no longer hurt. That must mean that the quirk wore off, and all of his injuries were gone and healed. He was one of the few that tried their best to protect their teacher from being killed by the monster in the Center Plaza. They all fought in their own right, but the fact that Midoriya risked his life to save someone is awe-inspiring. Momo wanted to be just like him and grow stronger, more confident. The whole time that the break was going on, she had been training. She couldn't do much of it, unfortunately, because of the diet her parents had her on. It was hard to use her quirk with how much food she is given, but that didn't stop her from working out. Momo kept on top of the goal she wanted, and at the moment, it was wanting more stamina. She'll work her hardest like all of her classmates do, so that she can stand next to them on equal footing. This was perfect. It was amazing. Ochako didn't have to waste her parents' money anymore just to have a small apartment closer to UA. They could save money on food she would eat at the apartment and the water and electricity bill. It was perfect and awesome that UA offered housing for the students. It wasn't mandatory, but it was for those who lived too far or wanted away from home for a bit to make it feel more like they were starting off their careers. That part was mostly pointed at the hero course and different support courses, but Ochako also knew it was for safety. With what happened at the USJ and even how they managed to get in, this was we are going to keep you safe no matter what, because if they can get into UA, they can find any student they want, but they let the students decide if they wanted to or not. The villains that were at the USJ didn't even want them. They wanted All Might. That's who they were after, so of course if it was a group that was prepared for All Might, they would be prepared for the #1 hero school. If they did this to the hero at any other time, it would have looked like a normal attack, but they were going for when he would be most vulnerable or distracted and staying in place. They wanted the attention, and they sure as hell got it. Ochako picked up one of the boxes and started to walk towards the moving van UA sent for her. Her teachers informed both of her parents through a call. They were too busy for a parent-teacher conference, so that was the alternative. They also didn't have a computer for a video call, so a normal call was all they were able to do. There was a whole talk that Ochako was a part of, but mostly just to hear how it went, and her parents gave the go-ahead. She didn't have to worry about draining her parents' money anymore. It honestly has made her a lot more relaxed than she was beforehand. The movers helped grab some of the things to move into the van that is going to take her to UA. She can't wait. She won't be alone at home anymore, and that was okay. She was fine coming home to an empty house every day, but sometimes, like what happened the first time they had heroics class with All Might, he was cool, but not a very good teacher. She has seen new teachers, and All Might was somehow worse than the new teachers she's seen. Then after that, there was the intruder alarm and what happened right after the USJ. Oh, Ochako shouldn't think about that. She can't think about that at the moment because she couldn't get in touch with anyone without a phone. UA was going to get her a phone too. Now she could stay in contact with her parents and teachers if needed. It's also for safety, being able to call for help at the drop of a hat. That will also let her call her friends. That will let her talk with them without her parents' phone. Ochako already sent her parents' phone back, and all of her class said that Midoriya wasn't answering calls. The only thing she can go off of is the fact that the principal and all of her teachers said that he was recovering well and will very soon be in full bill of clean health. Yeah, Aizawa-sensei said he was fine when she was in contact with him on the parent call. Yamada-sensei said he was fine on the parent call. Principal Nezu said he was fine on the parent call. Recovery Girl said he was basically all healed on the call. So why does she feel so nervous about starting school again and seeing him? Yuga wanted to go back to UA. He was tired of dealing with his parents. They kept crowding him and asking all these questions about his classmates. They asked all these questions about his teachers in the school, how it's built, and if the security really is good if villains were able to break in. It was driving him up a wall. He got it though. They were worried about him, and with his quirk not being right for his body, just made it worse. It was only about 4 days ago that the USJ happened, and usually his parents would have given him space by now, but they haven't. At every turn, Yuga was treated like a child, a toddler that didn't know anything, and it was annoying. He just wanted to go back to class. Even that class All Might taught that was awful is better than this. Oh, and if only his classmates heard him talk about Mr. Number 1. Yuga was from France and didn't really care about the symbol of peace extraordinaire. Honestly, it really seemed like he's just spread prejudices to him, but maybe he's wrong. He's seen how all of his animal mutated classmates look at All Might. It was a mix between respect and well-hidden hate. All Might was the one at the top, born with a perfect quirk, perfect life, perfect face, perfect normal top-of-the-line hero to be nothing else. Hero and nothing else was accepted. Yuga really had no idea why he was teaching there because he knows for a fact that he has no teaching license. Maybe he used the commission to get in. Yuga didn't really care. He just needed to stay in UA and pass. That was all. His classmates were fine. Midoriya seemed okay-ish, But that was just due to a quirk, so he should be fine by now. Yuga can't wait to go back to class, where he could really shine. 1, 2, 3, turn, step, step, slide. 1, 2, 3, jump, side, step, spin. Mina. 4, 5, 6, step back twice and flip. Mina. Side step, 1, 2, 3, jump, spin. Mina. Clap, clap, step, step, spin. Mina! Whoa! She swung her arms everywhere, but quickly took a bad fighting stance that looked more like a dance pose. Who trying to fight me? Oh, Mom! Mina watched as her mom sighed out loud. She just scratched the back of her head in embarrassment. Sorry, Mama. I guess I was just too focused on my routine and wasn't paying attention to what was around me. Again. She received another sigh and a head shake, but there was a small smile on her face. It's fine, Mina, but food is ready, and I know for a fact that you skipped breakfast and had a small lunch. She flinched at the claim because it was completely right, and she can't even begin to hope to lie to her mom. Mina pouted a bit and started to walk to her door. Oh, now don't give me that face. You need more food if you want to be a hero, let alone dance longer routines in the future. Her mom then pinched her cheek, and Mina was effectively caught as she was pulled out of her room. This was a normal day interaction in the Ashido household. Mina was always one to move around and get lost in her thoughts while doing whatever it was she was doing. She got that from her dad, and her mom seemed to be more level-headed in the whole house. She also has a younger brother that was around 7, but he was more reserved and quiet, and very active. Mina always made sure to have time for her family because it was her thing. It was their thing. Her dad had some type of mutation that gave him horns. They looked to be from an animal, but he never really cared to look into it. Her mom had an acid-type quirk, but it hurt her, unlike Mina's. Now some might think, why is she thinking about this while spending super time with her family? That was an easy answer. She's distracting herself. Mina didn't want to think much about what happened at the USJ. Her family has been helping her process what had happened, and her little smart brother had been therapizing her. The past few nights have made supper more quiet, reserved almost. Mina doesn't like it, but she can't help but think about all her friends. That's been the only thing she's even talked about these past few days, and it's not been helping her mood at all. She sighed a bit while putting some food in her mouth. Sissy? Her eyes looked up and over to a little brother that was sitting beside her. You're overthinking again. She tried her best to put on a smile, but everyone at the table could see that it was fake. I'm fine, Shin. I just want to see if my friends are all doing okay. Shin just gives her a deadpan expression and then goes back to his food. Yeah, that's what she thought he was going to do. Mimi, eat your food. Mina quickly started to shove food into her mouth at her dad's comment. It's so good. Her dad laughed as she shoveled more food into her mouth. It looks like Shin isn't that far behind you, Mimi. Mina's eyes zipped over to her brother, who was also shucking food into his mouth as fast as her. How I even managed to live with you people most of my life is a mystery to me. Mina's mom spoke as she put a little bit of fish into her mouth. She watched as her dad leaned over with a cheeky smile on his face. But you love me and them, and I know for a fact that you wouldn't have it any other way. She snickered as her mom pushed her dad. He almost fell off the chair, but he regained his balance quick enough. You really shouldn't do that, Dad. It's the same outcome every time. But she loves us. Mina laughed as Shin rolled his eyes and continued eating. Mina, so you know, some of your teachers are coming over tomorrow so that they can give us an update on what's happening at UA. Her mom moved her chopsticks around as she talked. They are doing this so that they can ask questions in real time, and I'm sure they have some new buildings being built. I forgot exactly what they are for, but they said that it could affect every student in some way, so we'll be talking mostly about that besides safety. Honey, there UA. Our baby girl is perfectly fine. Oh yeah? Then what was with those bastards when they got in last time, huh? Mina rolled her eyes as light banter started to spread through the room. It was nice to have it slightly lively again after so long. She hopes her friends are doing okay and having some nice times with their own families. Sue is sitting up in a tree at the moment. Both of her parents are at work and her siblings are at school. She was all alone in this big house with nothing to distract herself with. She at least could talk to everyone in class. It might have been unbearable if she couldn't do that. Sue sighed as she stretched out some more on the low-hanging branch on the tree in her backyard. She has been staying in contact with Shoji, Tokoyami, Kota, and a little bit of Ashido too. She thought Ashido would understand more of the animal mutation, but since it wasn't really a big impact on her life, she couldn't understand as well as Sue thought she could. Sue has been talking the most with Tokoyami, though. Besides the others that she was talking with frequently, she wanted to be prepared for when Midoriya got back, and Tokoyami talked with her in long, detailed conversations of different levels of bird of prey quirks. He was a little out of his depth because they were both able to tell that Midoriya seemed to be a bird of prey, unlike Tokoyami, who was more of a gathering or scavenger. He did help the best he could, though, and kept the little group Sue made in the loop about what to avoid and what was okay. It was big for how the different levels of instincts there were. Well, she couldn't really talk, but she was a prey animal, so it wasn't this bad. Shoji was giving her insights to how it felt when his predator instincts act up. Those days he was usually more quiet to avoid fighting by accident. There was also the fact that everyone dealt with it differently, and everyone had a different level of instincts they were at. After they all tried their best to learn the things they shouldn't do, they started to make sure what Midoriya would like or would see as neutral. Ashido was being mostly distracted with her family, so she didn't participate in it much, but she did usually ask if everyone was okay, and what would make Midoriya feel more okay. Ashido believed that the quirk would have worn off by now, and that they didn't need to worry about Midoriya having any type of backlash. But Sue, Tokoyami, Kota, and Shoji knew. They all saw how he acted before Hawks got there. They all saw the private event of a bonding being formed. It was honestly embarrassing to see and felt very intrusive, even from a distance. But it was what needed to be done so Midoriya wouldn't attack anyone. Tokoyami said that the bond, or mark, is what he calls it most times, was a permanent thing, and that he believes their classmate/friend got a permanent new mother. She looked at her phone as she read over the detailed text from Tokoyami again. It described in best detail he could explain about the birds' bonding rituals/events that would happen. Sue didn't really understand because frogs don't really care about family. She means, look at her parents, who usually leave her to take care of her siblings. They are slightly detached from them, but they could have tried harder. Just because a small part of their brains doesn't care, doesn't mean they couldn't have tried. They are still human deep down because, to use herself as an example, she loves her siblings and would do so much for them because she worked hard on that relationship. Sue's parents didn't even try, and they were just using the excuse of instincts as a shit crutch. Back to the long detailed text from Tokoyami that he worked very hard on, it described that for most bird mutation individuals, they have these bonding events/rituals. They usually happen at a much younger age than would happen with Midoriya, but they can be done at any point in the chick's life. It's more uncommon the older they get, but it's not unheard of, and it's not unheard of to see a mama be younger than their own chick. A bonded young will always refer to their parent as mama, even if they are male, sexless, gender fluid, it doesn't matter. Mama was the title those gained from the bond that seemed to just happen to every bird mutant, no matter what. For whatever reason, that's just how it goes. It was a title to be proud of. Sue was reading the part that described how flocks are usually formed from when one is too far in their instincts to protect themselves or think straight. It's kind of like a net to catch someone if they fall too deep. That was when a ding alerted her to a new text as it popped up on screen. It was the decline link for the dorms that Nizu sent her. It also had the accept link on there, as well as just in case she changed her mind. The text details about how if Sue were to go and live on campus, that her siblings will still be taken care of by a paid nanny UA could hire for them. With her family being so big and her parents needing to work all the time, she became basically a live-in nanny. But if she agreed to this and got her parents to sign, which wouldn't be hard in all honesty, she could live without worrying her siblings will be forgotten. A smile spread across her face as she read more, stating that if it was okay if she went back at home at any time, as long as she came back to UA before curfew. It was a very nice and extremely helpful thing for Nezu to do. This might just be his way of saying sorry for her almost dying at the USJ, or it was his instincts kicking in and not wanting those who are in his territory to be hurt. Either way, it was something for Sue to use to get away from the awkward home life her parents created for her. She typed out her accepted conditions and that she will get her parents' signature soon. The next text message that she got from Nezu from the UA alerts shocked her a bit. If he knew this already, why did he even accept all the forms she had turned into UA to begin with? UA alerts. Oh, I don't think getting a signature from your parents will be quite hard. With your skill to forge their signature, you could just sign the paper that is arriving to your door now, and then give them back to the private postal service UA has. The PSUA is what it's called. Typing, U. She really didn't know how to respond, but the knock from the front of the house startled her out of her daze. Sue blinked a couple times with her second eyelids, then closed them and let her top eyelid stay open, so she didn't need to blink. If it really was the person Nezu sent, that it wouldn't really be a problem, but because of the USJ, you could say she was a bit more jumpy and paranoid. When she finally got to the door, it was a person clad in all black clothes with a black hat that had a very hard-to-see PSUA symbol on it. Papers for Asui Tsuyu. Can you please sign? Sue took the papers out of their hands very slowly and looked to see that it was the agreement papers to live in the dorms. Sue didn't tell her parents if the dorms were required or forced. They haven't even had the meeting with her parents yet to talk about them. Her eyes zipped back to the phone in her hand and quickly typed something. I will only live there if I can see my siblings whenever I want, that they are happy, safe, and taken good care of. I will not allow any nanny that I don't approve of to take care of them, so you have to let me screen every nanny you want to hire, and I will be the last straw they have to pass. If they aren't up to my standard, they aren't hired. You. UA alerts. Consider it done, Asui Tsuyu. Would you like to use a pen, or do you have your own pen that you can use? Sue's head snapped up to see the postal person holding a pen out for her with a big smile. She took it and started to sign her parents' names where they needed to go, on the wall beside the door. After she quickly got done signing the papers, she gave them back to the UA postal person. Thank you. These will be given straight to Nezu, and your parents will be given an email stating that you have to live at the dorms. They will also be told that they will have a nanny look over their home when they are not here, so that they are safe from any possible villain attacks that might occur because... Ding. Her eyes wandered back down to her phone after they didn't finish their sentence after the ding went off. They just held that smile without moving. 'Cause not all the villains were captured after all. Thump. The winner of this match is Ojiro. He lets out a harsh breath as he finally moves his tail around. Trying not to use it in his match fights makes it feel more stiff than normal. Standing to his full height, he stretches his hands above his head and then helps up his opponent. That was a good fight. Learn to better block your right because that's how I was able to flip you so well, okay? His opponent nodded back at him as they both walked off the mat. Ojiro grabs a nearby towel and wipes the sweat off his face, and then picks up his water so he can have a nice long drink. Out of the corner of his eye, he sees his father approaching. He finishes his swig of water and quickly bows to the master of the dojo. Hello, master. I had a lovely match just now and was able to test my abilities without using my tail. A thump was heard and Ojiro snapped straight. The thump was his dad hitting the ground with his longer and truthfully stronger tail than Ojiro possessed. That's good, but also remember that now since you are learning to become a hero, you need to think of more creative ways to use your tail in combat. Ojiro nodded rapidly with a huge smile on his face. I know that smile, boy. If you wanted a match with your old man, then you just needed to ask. There's no need to beat up your dojo mates. His father then thumped his tail on the ground 3 times, and a mat was swiftly cleared for their match. Whispers started up like forest fire. How he could ask for a match at any time, how he was getting special treatment, how he shouldn't be allowed to practice with his tail because it's unfair because they focused on quirkless fighting in this dojo. Aizawa-sensei has already explained that life was unfair and the USJ solidified that fact. Not to mention anyone can find his dad anytime they want, they just needed to ask. His dojo mates are just too scared to actually ask him outright. Get on the mat, boy. We need someone with a quick eye to keep track. Ojiro quickly made his way to his side of the mat and got into position. Aizawa-sensei would be proud of his form for quirkless fighting, and even more so proud of his fighting with his tail. He hopes that Aizawa-sensei is okay and still able to walk correctly. The last anyone had heard from the school was that they were getting like 2 weeks off. Ojiro. His head snapped up to his father, who was standing on the opposite side of the mat. Get your head out of the clouds and remember. His father then tapped the side of his own head. Use those instincts, boy. You might not have as many as me, but you still got 'em, and they shine the brightest in battle. Make them stronger and controlled in the middle of your battles so you can fight better. Read your opponent's movements and read emotions. Ojiro watches and listens to his father easily slide into a fighting stance. Emotions are a key part in battle, son. Being able to read one's emotional state or body language can save your life one day. Ojiro sharply nodded his head, tensing at the ready for when the ref marks go. He wasn't able to help out as much at the USJ and got carried by Shoji because of his hearing. His classmates was able to hear where all the villains were in the fire zone, and when he got it wrong, he quickly was able to take down 2 villains. Ojiro was able to see how Shoji fought too, sacrificing a limb so that he was able to punch or attack better, but then he would just swiftly grow another one to aid him. He took a deep breath and steadied his heart. Instincts are what Shoji said he relied on most in those fights. His instincts told him when to pull back and when to get rid of the dead weight of his extra limbs and where the best part to strike for a finishing blow. Shoji did say that it was hard not to go for the kill hits because his instincts were screaming at him to defend himself and get rid of the threat that could kill him instead. But the thing is, Shoji has excellent control on his instincts in battle. Ojiro only saw him slip up 6 times. 6 times. He himself had slipped up more than 34 times in a one-on-one fight with his father to try and control the beast that is his instincts. Ojiro didn't have many instincts, and they really aren't that strong, but when in the middle of a fight, his brain suddenly makes his instincts see it as a life-or-death situation. They took over and wanted nothing but to kill, survive, and live. That would be all that it screams in his head, while it throws him in which way he needs to end his opponent to see the next sun. This was one of the reasons Ojiro fought so much in the dojo all his life, to help make his mind see not every fight as a life or death, to show his instincts that he didn't need them, and to smush them down so if he got in a random street fight, it wouldn't end with him being coated in blood. Now he needs to do the opposite of what he's done all his life. Go! Ojiro raced forward as the thin but strong thread holding his instincts back snaps. A snarl spreads across his face and he lurches himself up so he could get a clear, hard hit on his opponent's face. His adversary dodges, though, and he shakes his head. You need to learn how to use your instincts, boy. Ojiro was quickly hit in the side with his opponent's tail, his own quickly snapping out, making him twist his body out of the hit. Ojiro's tail collided with his enemy's tail, and then he pushed himself back, using his slightly sharper nails to dig into the soft flooring under him to slow himself down more. On all fours, Ojiro is ready to make his tail fling him in any direction to move or attack in any way he wants. Do not let your instincts control you, Ojiro. He knows how to end it. It's better to end a fight faster than to drag it out. It's for survival. It's to live. This is why we trained you so much when you were little tyke. His enemy's eyes closed for a few seconds, and that was when he sprung forth. One shot and he could end up dead. A heavy hit struck his back and he was sent sprawling in front of his enemy. You need to get better control, not to just push them down, boy. His enemy stood above him and he tried to think of the next move and to end their life, to live another day. Like I said, you don't have them strong enough as me, but it seems like they always shine the brightest when you fight, for better or for worse. Something pinched the side of his neck and soon it was lights out. He didn't get to live like he was supposed to. Denki walked down the road to his new favorite destination. His parents gave him the all okay to go and said to steer clear of the street lights, vending machines, and those electric pole thingies that have those wires connecting to all of them. He thinks they're called telephone poles, right? Anyways, he's on his way towards his new favorite place ever. It's awesome and the best. No one can say otherwise. Even his parents, who are always so worried about his quirk control. Really, he hasn't needed to stand away from electronics in years. Denki can walk right up to a vending machine, buy something from it, and take it out, without draining any of its energy levels. He always thought that he drained the electricity out of so many things because his quirk and body didn't produce enough of the stuff when he was younger. What helps Denki's theory is that he was always really tired as a kid, and he would always find his way to something that held a ton of electricity without trying to leech off of it. This was also the reason why their electric bill was so high. Now, the reason his parents wouldn't want him to go to his new spot was because it was a beach. You heard him right, a beach. Yeah, don't go near water because he hasn't accidentally let loose electric near one and killed a bunch of wildlife that was nearby. They got some good fish out of it, and there was no one around, so no harm in his eyes. Denki's quirk control used to be bad, is what he's trying to say, and his parents took it upon themselves to make sure no one would be hurt by him. Example of this, we are going to protect everyone from our dangerous sun. Rubber fucking gloves 24/7. Denki wore them in his sleeve into school for many years, and still had to wear them outside even though he got better quirk control when he was 8. No, he still needed them apparently. His parents even had the gall to put locks on them. The nerve of some assholes, really. He huffed as he walked closer to the beach. At least they started to let him go out more by himself after he got into UA. They thought since he got into the hero course, it must mean that his control was getting better than ever. He's had the best control over his quirk since he was 8, but no, only when he got into UA did they see that. Denki kicked a pebble that was on the side of the road that he was walking on. How could they only see it after he got into UA? He had no idea. A stray spark brought Denki back into focus. He guesses they were right about something all these years. His emotions always did make it harder to control the electricity they wanted so badly to escape his body. It's like everything flipped. At first, Denki was making too little, and now he's making too much. He tried not to think about the electric coursing through him while continuing to walk to the beach. It was the best place to let his electricity go through the sand and making little spots of this cool stuff called petrified lightning. The heat that could come off the electricity was hot enough to make the sand melt, stick together, and form this weird cracky tube thing but basically it's just really shitty glass. If he's correct, he could make a huge amount of those, and they can go for a lot of money because of how rare they form, how brittle they are, and how long it usually takes for a beach to slightly wash away to even get people to see it. Denki would do this where no one was walking, but sometimes he would find stray pieces of trash from when it was a trash heap and also see how those react to his electric currents. Whoever cleaned up the beach is the best bro in his mind. They made a place that was peaceful and the perfect spot to let out some energy without hurting others. Fighting in the USJ also helped with that too. Of course, going overboard makes him go into his yay mode, but that was better than his uncomforting buzzing all the time. Seriously, it helps a bunch. On days he can't get here, he accidentally lets off little charges in class. Actually, he lets them off anywhere when his emotions get too high, which is all the time, by the way. Denki has shocked some of his friends this way. He hopes they are doing well in all this bull. It's okay though, because he's going to see them soon, and he'll even be living on school grounds with some of them. His parents said it was for others' safety. Understandable, because UA has a place for him to safely discharge his electricity. That was something his parents never found for him. Denki doesn't know if he didn't try hard enough to find one, or just not tried at all. Besides that, he has shocked basically everyone in class. He has literally shocked everyone at a point or another, and all of their reactions were funny. It didn't hurt them, so it was fine. The only people that got too much electricity from a few times was Kirishima. He hardened though, so it didn't affect him much. Another was Ashido, and it was just enough to make her freeze for a bit, have some sore muscles and puffy hair. The last one was... Denki walked down into the sand as he thought of the other person he accidentally zapped with too much power before. He quickly gets into a spot that no one really goes to and starts to zap the ground to make small patches of a thing called petrified lightning. The last person that he accidentally zapped was Midoriya, but Mito Bro didn't really react. Actually, Midoriya didn't even notice that he got zapped. Here, let Denki set the picture for everyone that wants to know what happened. Yeah, laugh it up. It's like he's setting up for a viewer's pleasure in his own head, because it was fun to act like people actually wanted to know more about his day sometimes, okay? Back to the scene at hand. This is in his head. Denki was talking with his friends in class, and they were by Midoriya. Midoriya was writing like a madman in his books. That seemed to be normal for him, though. As Denki was laughing away at a joke that Sarah made, he leaned too far back and made contact with Midoriya. That was when Denki started to worry because truly, that was one of his biggest spikes of electricity he had and accidentally shocked someone with. He stopped laughing right away and turned around to check on Midoriya while the others continued to laugh, not noticing his behavior at all. Rude. Anyways, he turned to see if Midoriya was okay, because that was enough to give someone electrical burns. It was enough to send someone into shock and pass out. Denki was actually ready to call for Recovery Girl or Wake Up Sensei so he could help somehow. He knew how to treat electrical injuries, but Denki is also pretty certain that Aizawa Sensei has some type of nursing degree besides his teacher's one. Gosh, he got off track again. Denki shocked the sand some more and watched as it branched out. Let's get back to Midoriya. He was supposed to scream in pain and fall to the ground, clutching his body, trying to stop the convulsions that would have been happening because of that powerful shock. That was what was supposed to happen. But it didn't. He huffed as he moved to another spot to make more petrified lightning. It was always so cool to look at. What Denki got that day was confusion and impossibilities. Midoriya withstood his shock, and really, it seemed like he was riding even faster after what seemed to be a boost of energy because of it. After it happened, Midoriya seemed more lively than he ever had before for the rest of the day. Denki decided that maybe he imagined how much the boy seemed to come to life after that. He didn't feel fake after the shock and looked alive. He didn't look like a moving puppet or on strings anymore, but the next day he was back to his weird Midoriya self. Denki hopes that he's doing okay. He knows that they were all told that he was doing fine. They said the same for 13 and Aizawa Sensei, but how does Denki put this? He took off his specially designed rubber shoes and put his feet in the sand so that every step was filled with his electrical heat. When everyone exited the USJ and saw how Midoriya was being, it was like that time he was being shocked, but just more. He seemed so alive and moving and not stiff and holding back anymore. Everything seemed fluid and nice. Denki honestly loved how he was after he got those wings on his back. It seemed like they should or was supposed to be on his back with the whole time, because it was just so right. It was right in Denki's mind that Midoriya had wings. Midoriya had wings and he didn't get hurt by electricity, but it actually helped him be more lively. Yeah, Midoriya's okay, and he hopes he still has his wings and feathers and stuff. That was supposed to be there, and hey, maybe the next time Denki sees him, he could give Midoriya a quick shock and see him act like he's on a sugar high or something fun like that again. He nodded to himself and he looked at his weird-looking petrified footprints in the sand. He smiled because that seemed like the perfect way to get a new friend in Denki's mind. Ojiro looked confused about the mountain of text that Bakugo just sent him. He literally just woke up and was bombed, no pun intended, with a mountain of text that all came from Bakugo. That was weird to begin with, but it went on about an Uncle Sashi, how the police came, how they took everything he had. He was confused and kind of tired, so he asked Bakugo who Uncle Sashi was, and even more shockingly, the blonde responded with, "You absolute dumbass, it's Deku's dad." Which was, okay, did that mean Bakugo was related to Midoriya? Ojiro did also ask that, but was quickly shot down with a "no, you idiot." It was an honest question because what else was he going to assume? He's glad that he asked though, but back on to the text. Apparently after this Uncle Sashi guy got to their home, he said he had to leave so he could get his stuff back. Bakugo agreed and went on about where Auntie and Deku were. He asked his uncle where they were, but they said that the police and heroes took both of them from him. Ojiro was reeling the whole time he was reading the text. He didn't really know what to do, but waited for more information. Bakugo then said after his uncle left that they were going to the station that Auntie would have been taken to and demand for her to be free. Bakugo also said that they were going to help Deku too because knowing him, he's probably in a puddle of tears by now. Where Ojiro couldn't really argue with. Midoriya was a manly crier. He was also really worried about his friend's mental and physical state because the last time Ojiro saw him, he had wings, was screaming at everyone and trying to attack everyone that got too close. After Bakugo said that last thing, the other line went quiet. There were no texts or updates, so Ojiro called Yue. He was worried and scared for his friend, for Midoriya and his family that apparently got taken away with cuffs or something. He was first connected through a waiting line and just waited for someone to pick up. The thoughts of what was happening with his friends plagued his mind while waiting. It was almost 5 days since the USJ, and they haven't really gotten much information about anything besides the fact that they were off school for 2 weeks. "Hello, this is the UA representative. How may I help you?" My name is Ojiro Kirishima. I was calling to inform my teachers about, how do I put this? My classmate Midoriya Izuku and his family were taken by the police. I don't know, but I thought I could get in contact with Principal Nezu so that we could do something about the police taking in the Midoriya's family. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have called. No, it's okay. I'll transfer to the principal. Just stay on the line. Ojiro sat there waiting to be connected. He honestly didn't think they would connect him over. He just did this because he didn't know what to do. Calling an adult and hero to help with a problem was normal to do, but at the same time, Nezu would be able to do something. He was the principal of UA after all. He was the smartest person in Japan. Nezu would know what to do with the information he has. "Hello, this is Principal Nezu of UA. So, Kirishima, can you tell me about this incident that you heard of? The one involving Midoriya and the police?" "Oh, Principal Nezu, I was told by Bakugo that his Uncle Sashi came over after the police took everything from him. He said they took Midoriya away, plus his house, and his mom. I'm just really worried about Midoriya is all." Ojiro heard some scribbling and probably Nezu writing down what he was saying. "So Midoriya's father is at the Bakugo household at this very moment?" He shook his head, but then quickly remembered that Nezu couldn't see him. "No, Bakugo said that he left so he could, get his stuff back, is what he said. Me and Bakugo were texting about it, so I can send over all the text if that would help." "Yes, Ojiro, that would help out tremendously. I will text your phone with the number you can send your screenshots to. We will make sure everything is cleared up so there is no need to worry. Midoriya Izuku is completely fine and it is in good hands. He is safe." He let out a breath he didn't know he was holding as he rubbed his head. "Thank you, Principal Nezu. That's reassuring, but everything will be okay, right?" Ojiro waited for a response, but it took longer than he felt comfortable waiting for. Yes, Kirishima Ojiro, I will make sure that everything turns out right in the end. Thank you again, Principal. There's no need to thank me, Kirishima. I'm just doing my job. Have a nice day and please get some well-deserved rest. With that, Nezu hung up, leaving him in the silence of his room. Bakugo still didn't text him back, but that was okay because Nezu would make sure everything was fine. A ding brought his attention back to his text. Nezu's number for the screenshots. Ojiro can help out with making sure everything turns out right. Midoriya will be safe, and Bakubro won't have to worry about his uncle and auntie. Yeah, this will turn out just fine. Koji was sitting in his room with his rabbit by his side. Some of his teachers just got done with the meeting for the dorms with his parents. His parents led it up to him to decide if he wanted to live on campus, and truly, Koji didn't know. He was thinking about so many other things besides the dorms, so it was hard to decide. His mind was still on the attack, the people that were attacking them, that thing in the plaza, what that person did to Midoriya when Midoriya started to act more right. Koji couldn't place it, but after he was hit with that quirk and gained wings, Midoriya felt more right. It was like they were supposed to be there, but he didn't know why he felt that way. He knew that something was wrong, and with his classmate, everything felt a little to the left with him, but Koji thought maybe that's just how Midoriya was. He accepted that Midoriya was just odd and not right per se, but then he got those wings and... Koji? Mom? He looked up to the door to see his mother standing there, with a tray of snacks for him and his rabbit with her. She had a gentle smile on her face like she always does. She does a chuff while slowly walking into his room. He does one back out of curtsy. Ko, do you mind if I sit with you? Koji shook his head and she quickly joined him on the floor, tray laid out in front of them. She passes the treats over for his bunny and then makes sure their food is further away just in case. They sat in quiet for a little bit. The quiet felt almost suffocating because of his racing mind about what they all learned from the USJ meant. Koji? He slowly looked over to his mom, who had a concerned look on her face. Honey, I know that look all too well. Koji started to pet his rabbit for some type of comfort. Can you please tell me what's making you so tense? If you don't want to, that's fine, but you know I won't judge you. I won't tell Dad or anyone else unless it's something that is going to hurt you or others around you. He pulled the blanket from his bed so he could wrap it around his shoulders. Maki, his bunny, silently munched on their treat as he tried to get more comfortable. He told them that he's sorry for the sudden movements that might scare them. Koji then looked back at his mother, who had an encouraging light in her eyes. His mom was just so nice. I'm worried. Do you mind if I ask about what? My classmate, something happened to him. He watched as his mom started to look worried for his classmate / kind of friend. Oh, what happened to him? Did he get hurt or maybe something scared them too much? Maybe they got too traumatized by something. Koji snickered as his mom started to mumble out of her thoughts at the end. She is always so nice to everyone and everything, but she was a bit blunt when it was about mental health. It would make sense because it was a villain attack and not every parent is like me who makes sure mental health gets treated right away. Does he need to go to a therapist? Ours is very nice and wouldn't mind working with someone we know. Mom? Oh, sorry, honey. I got a little lost there for a bit. He chuckled a bit at his mom's antics. It was helping him clear his thoughts a bit at least. No, Mom, it's fine. He wasn't hurt, I think. It's hard to say because... Koji huffed in annoyance as he tried to think of a way to explain what exactly happened and all he felt about Midoriya being Midoriya before everything happened. How was he supposed to get her to understand how Midoriya was? He might just have to start from the beginning. Okay, I'm going to start from the beginning so you can understand better, okay? If you want to, that's fine, Koji took a big breath, held it in for a little, and then let it go. This was a lot this will be a lot of talking, but he can do it. The person that I'm worried about is Midoriya Izuku. He was always odd. No, not right. He wasn't right in the way like how you say something doesn't feel right with my instincts. Yeah, with them. He felt wrong and fake. Not right at all, but I thought that was just how he was. I didn't understand why everything was telling me that he was wrong, but I just accepted it because it would have been really mean to just state that to him. You did a good job on dealing with your instincts kicking up, honey. His mom clapped a bit, but he continued on. But you get where I'm coming from. When we were at the USJ, the thing in the plaza, it felt so wrong and not right. It was kind of like Midoriya's, but not exactly. That thing was much more extreme with the wrongness, so I continued to ignore it because it wasn't the time to deal with those feelings and instincts. That was until... Koji took a shuddering breath as the memory of the terrified and angry inhuman screeches filled his ears. The cry for help and warning to stay away, Midoriya kept screeching. The begging to leave them alone when the EMTs just kept advancing but ignoring his cries because they weren't able to understand him. How Koji stood there shaking, unable to help because he was too scared and shocked about what he was seeing to help. But the screeching was still so clear in his mind. How Midoriya looked so right and felt better when he got those wings. It didn't Koji? He took a sharp inhale and felt tears that started to roll down his face. He sniffled a little while rubbing on his face so his tears wouldn't make his eyes puffy. If you aren't ready to talk about it... No, I want to. I'm just so confused. It's okay to not understand. You don't need to understand, and maybe later when you see Midoriya again, you'll understand a bit better. Koji rubbed his nose and then nodded his head. He needed to get this off his chest. He could even be friends with Midoriya after this if he really wanted to. That could help him understand a bit more, if he knew Midoriya better. So, Midoriya was hit by a quirk. He took a few more breaths, and his mom just patiently waited. We really didn't get to see up close how it affected him physically besides the wings. He had wings and was screeching and crying and begging for them to leave him and his flock alone, and they kept walking closer and he screamed and begged, but they wouldn't listen because they couldn't understand him, but I could. Koji started to tremble as he tried to keep his breathing even. I could, but I did nothing but stand there and look and hear him. I could have helped and got him calmed down faster so they wouldn't have to need to call in Hawks, but I did nothing but let him scream in pain as he tried to defend Yamada-sensei, who he was thinking of as a flock at the time, and I didn't know what to do because he felt right, Mom. He jerked his head over to look at his mom as he saw how worried she was. He felt right. He was meant to have those wings, but that doesn't make sense, Mom. Koji breathed heavily as he wrapped the blankets more tightly around himself. He never had those, but when they weren't there, he felt wrong. As soon as he had them, he's right again. I don't get it. How is it just doesn't work like that. He flung his arms into the air in exasperation and confusion because he finally said it out loud. It still sounded weird, but it was right but confusing. Koji looked back at his mom in desperation, hoping that she experienced something like this too. Right, Mom? That's not normal and doesn't make sense. He waited and waited, but his mom didn't agree. She looked on as she seemed so apprehensive to answer his need to know, the need to understand if this was wrong on his part. She looked into his eyes and motioned for him to hug her. He did it without a thought as strong but soft arms embraced him. Koji let the tears flow from his eyes as his mom rubbed his back, but he still didn't say anything about it. She was a terrible liar, and if she didn't want to tell someone something, she just wouldn't say it. What was it that she didn't want to say? Please, Mom, just tell me I'm in the wrong for thinking Midoriya needs the wings. Please. He felt her arms tighten around him as she started to tremble along with him. Was she crying now? I'm sorry, Ko, but there are some very mean and disgusting people out there. Koji froze as he heard those words leave his mom's mouth, but wasn't able to see her expression. I have seen that before. Not when they got something back, but when they had to deal with that loss. I'm so sorry Midoriya had to live through that, but he has them back now. More tears flowed down his face like a river as his mom's words slowly started to make sense. He's okay now. He's safe. He's safe now because the heroes would have noticed. Koji started to openly bawl, his eyes out, as everything made so much more sense. Everything was so clear now, and it hurt just to see a glimpse of it. Why? Why would someone do that? Why do that to anyone, let alone someone so nice and kind as Midoriya? Just thinking of what happened to him. Oh, Kami forbid his mom. It's okay, Koji. It's all okay now. How could someone be so cruel? He was stress baking. He has been stress baking for about 3 days now. Exactly 3 days after the USJ event. An awful, awful attack that could have killed someone or permanently disfigured someone. It was so much fun to just bake away all his worries that just seemed to never end. It did help that his parents owned a bakery, or else all this would be going to waste. No, it wouldn't, but it still helped. Rikito would just give it to the local shelter and stuff, and boom, baked goods gone and make people happy. Actually, he could still do that. He's been baking so much that his parents don't really have the room for it in the cases anymore. Rikito will just ask his parents to get ready to go to the local shelter after hours today. It'll be like a little family outing together. They have done this some other times too. The shelters that they visit love when they do it. It'll have everyone running to the mess halls in seconds. He have to see put a hot tray on the metal table behind him. More cookies than he knows what to do with, but that's fine. The shelters will love them and everyone will be happy. After he was done with all of his baking, Rikito went to go find one of his parents to ask if they would go to the shelter tonight. He was able to catch his dad on the stairs and ask him. He got a yes and quickly went back to the kitchen to make sure everything was ready to go. It'll be close to a few hours till they leave, but packing still takes a while. Not to mention, he still didn't want to give them many cookies, so he's making cake and also cupcakes. Half the cupcakes are made with pig's blood for those with certain quirks and diets. There's also some bug ones, fish ones, and a bunch more. He knows how quirkish people can be. Shelters are full of innocent people that just want to live, but society doesn't let them. At least his baked goods can help them feel a bit more happy, and maybe even get them a bit more determined to find a good place that will let them grow. Alright everyone, that is the end for part 1 of this chapter. It's really long. I'm a little less than halfway through it, so I had to split this one apart. My favorite perspective so far was Koji. I don't know if I'd say favorite, but it was a lot more emotional compared to the other ones. I teared up a bit. Let me know which perspective was your favorite so far. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.